Now, before we begin this week's Anaglyph Jukebox, let's hear a word from Joe Podoto, who will now undo himself there. No, don't undo yourself, Joe. Unmute yourself. It's better for all of us. You look great. Go ahead. Fire away.
Okay. Am I unmuted? Saturday, September 7th. Can you all hear me? Saturday, September 17th, 1977. It was my 22nd birthday, and my friends were taking me to a midnight movie at the Waverly Theater on 6th Avenue in New York City. A commercial bomb when it premiered in 1975, the Rocky Horror Picture Show had been playing for over a year at midnight, developing a cult following and accompanying rituals. Newspapers, water guns, hot dogs, and shouted audience responses to the on-screen action. The international fandom for this weird rock and roll musical began in New York City. That's all history now, but that summer night in September, it was all fresh and new. Performance groups in costume acting out the show in front of the theater became a staple at Rocky Horror screenings, due in part to the prominent New York City fan cast. This cast included former schoolteacher and stand-up comic Sal Piro, his good friend Dory Hartley, who did a killer portrayal of Dr. Frankenfooter. You may not know, the film was shot in the UK at the Bray Studios and also at location at an old country estate known as Oakley Court. Horror film fans will know that this was extensively used in horror film productions. Also, a number of the props and the set pieces in Rocky Horror were reused from Hammer horror films too. Finally, in 2005, the Rocky Horror Picture Show was selected for preservation by the United States National Film Registry, by the Library of Congress, as being, quote, culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. All I can add is, don't dream it, be it.
How'd you do? I see you've met my faithful handyman. He's just a little brought down because when you knocked, he thought you were the candy man. Didn't you, friggin'? Don't get strung out by the way I look. Don't judge a book by its cover. I'm not much of a man by the light of day, but by night I'm one hell of a lover. I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. Let me show you around, maybe play you a sound. You look like you're both pretty grooving. Or if you want something visual that's not too abysmal, we could take in an old Steve Reeves movie.
Well, I'm glad we caught you at home. Could we use your phone? You see, we're both in a bit of a hurry. We'll just say where we are, then we'll go back to the car. We don't want to be any worry.
Well, you got caught in a flat. Well, how about that? Well, babies, don't you panic. By the light of the night, it'll all seem alright. I'll get you a satanic mechanic. I'm just a sweet transvestite. Whip it up and jam it, baby, from transsexual Transylvania. Why don't you stay for the night? Or maybe a bite. I could show you my favorite obsession. I've been making a man with blonde hair and a tan, and he's good for relieving my tension. I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. to the lab and see what's on the slab. I see you shiver with anticipation. But maybe the rain is really to blame. So I'll remove the cause. But not the symptom.
That, you know, I remember going to it. People haven't ever experienced that live. It was a trip,
It really was.
because you'd go to a movie theater, and I mean the theater knew this was coming because people were all set. They had newspapers so you didn't get hit in the head with the different scenes. People would just reenact them either on the stage. Some people actually got up on the stage and reacted that easy for me to say. Reenacted them. I got stuck on that word on there. Reenacted them in the movie theater. So it was quite a scene, man. Quite a scene, and it was quite fun. And I guess things like that. Go ahead.
Someone in the chat had a question, and I just would like to explain. This was the soundtrack that I used was from the Rocky Horror Show stage version. The images were all from Rocky Horror Picture Show film version. So I just wanted to mess with your minds.
I don't know what the hell you just said, but I'm sure it's true. Now, how did you get those? Did you take screen grabs from the movie, or how did that happen?
No. I stole images, copyrighted images, photographed by professionals.
Beep, beep,
I stole
beep.
them.
Well, okay, we bleeping that out.
No, I found images somewhere, and I used Leopix to convert them.
Once again, spatial images, you know, man, it's fascinating, incredible. Thank you, Joe. That was extremely cool. I got a joke sitting here, but I may not, you know, we went from Sicily to Sicily. I had to do it, man. It was just hanging there. Now we head off to Sicily with Paul Hutchence and his 3D journeys, but Paul couldn't be with us today, so I'll provide. And by the way, those sissies could probably kick a lot of everybody, so I'm being honest, but I like that in Sicily. Getting back to that, so Paul couldn't be here, and he sent a little summary of his images, and you're going to enjoy them. It's got some music in the background. I cannot be as good as Paul, so I cannot read these during the slide images, but I'm going to give you an idea of what's coming up, and you'll enjoy it just as much. Let's see. Oh yes, this is a journey to Sicily that Paul and his wife Marion took. Marion, you'll be seeing Mount Etna, where the skiing and everything else. You'll see it in the distance. The town of Taormina, where they may have stumbled upon, and I quote Paul on this one, a mafia funeral where the mourners were coming out of a church. The men were in suits with Ray-Bans. Nothing personal there, I'm sure, but Paul. Something you'd expect to see in the movies. And while we're on that, now, if you look closely, there are Roman mosaics, how elegant, in a villa, which has some of the finest ones in existence, and show the girls in bikinis nearly 2,000 years before Brigitte Bardot. And that was a quote directly from Paul. Now, he further states they went on an organized tour holiday and stayed in about 4 hotels during the week. Now, the island is one with, it's the largest in the Mediterranean Sea. And therefore, to see it properly, you can't stay in one place. So that's why all the hotels are moving around. Now, I hope I did his work well. I know I didn't do it as good as him. Roll it, Jim.
Giuri di ruvitare spini santi su dove sanno cantare mi senti non canto né p'amore né p'amante, perché manco mi passi per la mente, ciuri, ciuri, ciuri di tutto l'anno, l'amore che mi rasti ti lo torno, ciuri, ciuri, ciuri di tutto l'anno, l'amore che mi rasti ti lo torno. Ma quando mi la l'amore caro e ciuri, ciuri, ciuri di tutto l'anno, l'amore che mi rasti ti lo torno, ciuri, ciuri, ciuri di tutto l'anno, l'amore che mi rasti ti lo torno. Ciuri di rossi russa lo sbocciare, amaro domo ca femmine crede, amaro così fa sovraniare, lo sciure paradiso non ne vede, ciuri, ciuri, ciuri di tutto l'anno, l'amore che mi rasti ti lo torno, ciuri, ciuri, ciuri di tutto l'anno, l'amore che mi rasti ti lo torno, l'amore che mi rasti ti lo torno.
It's important to understand the significance of local organizations and their contributions to advancements in techniques and technology. You know, I'm big on how the heck did we get here and the roles played in creating a community. So today we bring you our first in a series celebrating stereo clubs. We begin with the Golden Gate Stereoscopic Society. Their home on the web is ggstereo.org. They meet twice a month. Go to their website for more information. And now representing Golden Gate, Matt Bergman, and we're going to discuss some history, and then we're going to go into some of the great images. Could you tell me a little bit about how this began? And of course, you can show anything you'd like at the meantime.
Yeah, we might need to have a 100-year anniversary celebration. The Golden Gate Stereoscopic Society was founded back in 1934, not as the Stereoscopic Society. It was founded as a traditional camera club, which was a thing in the 20th century we've mentioned. And camera clubs, they're still around. Maybe they're not as ubiquitous as they were. But they were how people, amateur photographers, got together to learn how to use their cameras. Cameras were, more complicated back then, and most importantly, to share their photos. The club was founded as the Miniature Camera Club. That name is kind of misleading. It wasn't about tiny spy cameras or anything. Miniature cameras at the time referred to 35 millimeter film cameras, which Kodak had just released really that year in 1934. By 1950, the club had changed their name to the Oakland Camera Club, which I understand was basically what they had been calling themselves for a long time. And it was a multi-division camera club. Let me show you a couple things here real quick. I'll share my screen. Stereo 3D being one of the one of the things. I think you're probably seeing this if you're following along with me. This is a flyer from
I don't see the share.
Oh, you
Am
don't
I?
see the share? Let me try that again.
Yep,
Let's
yep.
see. Let's try that again. Well, if we can't make this work, we can always come back to it.
Oh, we'll make
Oh,
it work. I have faith in you.
it's
Go,
complaining,
now I
so
got me again.
we'll try it in a little bit, but long story short, in 2023, the stereo division is what remains of the Oakland Camera Club. So a couple years ago, we changed our name to the Golden Gate Stereoscopic Society to better explain what we do today. We're not a large group. We've got about 12 active members who contribute every month. We always have one or two more visitors, and we encourage everyone to stop by. And we're all hobbyist stereo photographers. Nobody makes any money at this. Nobody makes a living at this. It's an opportunity for us to get together and critique each other's photos and share what we've been up to. We're not a competitive club. We're all very supportive. It's just a great way to see what other people are doing and to get some feedback to improve our own photography.
Now, back with back with the 1934 folks. Is there anything left? Is there anything left of them? No, I didn't mean it that way, but were there minutes or anything? Did people go through that trouble?
We do. We have an extensive archive. We have a whole filing cabinet of meeting notes, newsletters, flyers, ephemera.
Does that go all the way back, Matt, to the miniature club?
It does go back to the
Wow.
very beginning. We also have a good collection of these are stereo cards meant to be viewed with a home's stereo viewer. These date back, I don't know, back to the 50s, I think. They don't all have dates on them. And we have quite a collection of these vintage stereo realist slides, which is how they would share their 3D at the time. You would shoot on film using a camera like the stereo realist here. And they would be mounted on these slides. This was a chore that the photographer usually had to do. Very challenging. And then they would be projected. And in fact, when I joined the society as the camera club, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, we were actually still pulling out our old realist viewer and showing these sort of old school photos. So we still have the documentation, and we still have the gear too. If we were ever to, go back in time accidentally, we'd be able to run a meeting. We've got everything that we need.
That's amazing. When did they? So they were measured, then they changed to Oakland. Was that 1951?
That was in 1950. And from what I've read, the club had been calling itself the Oakland Camera Club for quite a while. I think the term miniature camera kind of went out of style probably the same year the club was formed.
And you have images from those folks in those file cabinets, some of those original folks?
We do, yeah. Of course, they're not all 3D because they were also practicing other forms of photography. So there are prints and there are slides as well. But the 3D stuff is the most interesting, of course.
Now, are any of the descendants of those original folks, do they contact you? Because that would seem like it'd be, especially got into the 50s, it seemed like some of the kids, the children might be around. Are they at all do they know this exists? That's the other thing.
It has happened. If they can make the connection, we do have a history page on our website to make us easy to find. When I first joined, we still had several original members, and these were stereo photographers who had learned their craft in World War II. They were cartographers, they were photographers, and they had just this incredible knowledge and this incredible body of work. They've all since retired and moved on. Although I gotta say, I am the youngest person in the GGSS, and I'm not a young person. So, that tells you something about how long we've been shooting stereo. I think a lot of our members, our current practicing members, some of them have been shooting for 20, 30 years and more.
And how would they have found you? The current members, how would they have?
Well, we do a lot of outreach presentations to other camera clubs whenever there's an event that might accommodate us. We did do Maker Faire, for example. We had an incredible reaction. Hundreds of people stopped by our booth and looked at our 3D TV, as well as the three LoomPad 2s that we had on display. Blew people away. Whenever people see it, they want to see more. They want to make their own, but it's the kind of thing that it has to be shown to them. It's not something that can be described, as everyone here knows. We have presented to other camera clubs in the Bay Area. And of course, now we're meeting online. So a lot of our outreach is to encourage people to drop by our Zoom meetings.
Will you go back to a regular in-person meetings?
Boy, good question. I can't believe that before the pandemic lockdown, we met once a month in person, set up screens and projectors and TVs. I don't know how we did it. I would love to get back to meeting in person because I think 3D is something that's best shared in a group.
Very good. I feel the same way because we went to monthly meetings also to none.
Yeah.
And we did the same thing. Logged. I can't believe we did it. Sound system. We shot it. We also videoed it. PA system. Drag it all in. And then we had Sheldon. You remember Sheldon? He would go get the snacks. He would get the cheese and all the stuff. I'd pick him up and say, I'd get a parking spot in Manhattan and then hump the stuff. I go, God, we did that.
Yeah. We didn't know.
But that's how much we all loved it. That's how much you loved it. Because
exactly.
Right. Fundamentally, just being around the people and that ability to share images and that excitement was great.
Yeah. To gather around a screen and just all make it a shared experience. We do meet a couple times a year now. I am planning our winter event. We'll get together in a shared space and we'll basically do that.
Now, you learned, the folks you mentioned that had all that experience in 3D, did they document that? Did they have, like, how did you manage carrying on their information or supplying their information to a larger group? How was that meant?
The club, up until very recently, had a long-running newsletter called the Panorama, and the Panorama, many issues are archived and can be downloaded from our website, and those that aren't will eventually be scanned and added, and they're a very rich resource of tools and techniques and examples and methods of making stereo photos. They start in the film era, and then there's this whole transition to digital. A lot of it is, how are we going to do this with digital cameras? And then it goes from there. A lot of articles about creative techniques, compositional techniques. There's a lot there. We're still documenting this. We're doing it directly on our website now rather than publishing a monthly newsletter. But we do have archives of this information going way, way, way back. It's definitely worth checking out.
And the last thing, Doro, give me 5 minutes and we'll start the slides. Was it a group that started back in 34? Was it one person? Because you said one person responsible. Okay, you're not the one person responsible for pulling it together. Do you know who that is? Out of curiosity,
I do. although I don't have their names in front of me right now, it was two individuals who founded this camera club in Oakland, California. And at one point in the 1950s, it was the most popular camera club in Northern California. Certainly not in the whole
Interesting.
country.
Wow.
Let me see if I can share. Okay, I'm going to try to do
You
a
got it
screen
this time,
share
pal.
here.
Things are
This
happening.
is loading.
Beautiful.
Okay, I
Yep.
think if you're sharing it,
Yep.
if
I'm
you can
seeing it.
see what
Perfect.
I'm sharing, this
Excellent.
is a photo of an Oakland Camera Club meeting from the 1950s. I forget the exact date. It's written on the back. You can see everyone is dressed to the nines. It's, mostly men. It looks like some of these men did bring their spouses. We can see some prints hanging on the wall. It looks like they're using a single lens projector back there, so this must not have been stereo night. But this gives you an idea of what this camera club culture was all about back then. I wish we could get this many people to show up for a Golden Gate Stereoscopic Society meeting.
Yeah, we all feel that way.
Uh,
Yeah.
I will say that in, around 2010, 2012, when we were enjoying the kind of the last 3D fad, we could fill a room with 75 or 100 people easy. And it seems that this stereo fad, this 3D fad, happens every 20 years or so. So I think that in another 10 years, maybe we'll have another chance to fill up an auditorium. We'll see.
Well, it's interesting in that shot. Because we're always saying the same thing, and I'm around youngsters all the time and try to convince them to, or just show them the fun. I'm not convincing anybody anything. You want to do it, you do it. But that looked like an elderly crowd, man. Like they were having that was an all, there wasn't many youngsters in it. It's very fascinating that what is it about this evolution of the technology that gets you to a point where I don't know, it's very fascinating that everyone seems to be older in it.
It really is fascinating. Cameras weren't cheap back then. Film wasn't cheap back then. These were entirely manual cameras, so they required a certain dedication, certain skill. But I really wonder, what was it really like? Something that's been sort of lost.
Well, 1934 would have been before chrome hit, right? Because that was a couple of years later. Color.
Right.
So there was still only in the black and white phase, and then another 2 or 3 years, I think 36 or 38 or something like that when chrome showed up. And so, we want to get to the pictures because I know people are anxious to do that.
Yeah.
But getting to that evolution, I'm just curious. Okay, they start in 34. They stay miniature up until 50.
Up until 50, although I think they weren't using that name.
Like you said, they were calling it Oakland.
Before that, yeah.
And it was the Oakland Photographic Society?
The Oakland Camera Club. And in fact, I'm sharing on my screen an old flyer. And the one thing I wanted to point out here is, they're listing why you might want to consider coming to one of these meetings: to improve your photography, meet other photographers, share skills, hear qualified judges. That's something we actually did up until recently. Win awards. Well, we're no longer a competitive club, but actually the spirit is the same. And I also wanted to point out that they list the divisions: 35 millimeter slides, prints, stereo slides, all sorts of different types of photography. And these would have been segregated into different meeting times, or maybe even separate meetings. So a lot happened at these meetings. There was a lot of different types of photography being practiced.
Really fascinating. And this is the last one until later, I promise, because I can keep going on and on. Everybody will be sleeping by the time I'm done. Do you notice either in your past journals a type of this is great, a stereotypical stereo photographer? I had to say it was dropped out, but anyway, a stereotypical stereo photographer. Is there a profession that leads them in? Is there
Good question. Stereo photography was popular in the 1950s and the 1960s. The stereo realist camera was heavily advertised, and they used celebrity advertising. So I think that really encouraged people to get into it as a hobby. And as I said, also, I know that a lot of the members who are practicing stereo had learned stereo photography in World War II when they were enlisted. Cartography is one example, but I know that to talk to some of these veterans, they just had a way of seeing things. Well, the word we use now is spatial. You would ask them for feedback. What do you think of my 3D photo? And they could examine it. They could imagine it in 3D space, and they could say, it would have been a better composition if you had, moved over 10 feet and climbed up a ladder, because then you would have gotten this and that. Just incredible brains able to comprehend this 3D space and capturing it photographically. I would love to know exactly what kind of training they got. I would imagine that must be available now, whatever the publications were, whatever the films were that they watched. But they were just a generation of incredible stereo photographers.
Yeah, it's kind of the mechanics of perception, because it's in here
Well
anyway, no
put.
matter what you got in front of you. But you're exactly someone who can actually understand how to bring that perception through these foreign gadget, just a gadget, right? The camera.
Yeah.
And make it show up. That's like amazing. I thank you so much. Now we're gonna have some fun. If everyone tolerated my questions and his brilliant answers, now we're gonna go onto something very simple. Great images. Stand by.
And while this is getting set up, I will introduce these by saying that these are all recent photos that our club members have made. Most of these have been made within the past 18 months or so. And I've selected these specifically as photos that represent the San Francisco Bay Area, which is where most of us practice. Because of that, this slideshow is weighted more towards some members than others, just because some members actually, take trips and take more exotic photos of what's in our backyard. Let's
Here's
start.
the thing. Anybody you skipped over, anybody who you had to because of the time and they're welcome any week. Okay, so if they want to send in images, no problem at all. We'll open door policy to the Golden Gate folks. So that's
great.
The answer.
Yeah. Be careful with that. We exhibit about 200 to 250 images a year, so we can go all night with this. But
well, you know what? I would still say I'm looking forward to that. So
great.
Based on these beautiful images, yes. I'll try not to get in your way. Just explain who shot this.
Yeah. So I've organized these into groups, so we'll see 3 or 4 photos, stereo photos by the same maker in a row. And we're going to start off with Melinda Green. Melinda lives in San Francisco, an incredible stereo photographer. She is also an excellent stereo portrait photographer, but the 3 that we're going to see here are more of her neighborhood and San Francisco in general. The title of this one, go ahead.
Well, the question, I see, I've had the fortune of looking at these, before the audience, but I noticed a lot do that, like that through the window thing. Is that, she got the rope going outside the slide.
Isn't that a great effect? Yeah, she's doing that by creating a false frame so that the elements that are through the window, as we call it, basically in front of the screen stereoptically, seem to fit in. They seem to be a part of the picture, and it really emphasizes that through the window effect.
And it does. And you know what? You feel like you're there more, but you actually feel like those things are coming past you. The
Yeah,
cables. You feel like the cables are around you, not just in the image. It's literally, you feel like that's great.
really feels like, we're in the scene here,
Yep.
looking straight up. It's a great effect. This is an effect. This false frame effect is one that several of us use. And the idea, of course, is that we try to compose our photos behind the window, in the sense that if you're looking at this on a screen, you want to be as if it's through the window, not having everything in your lap.
Mhm.
But of course, rules are meant to be broken, and this is a creative rule that's been broken very well. Here's another one by Melinda. Bowline Girls is the title. And this is at a new park in the Presidio in San Francisco. I like this one because you can see another shot of the Golden Gate Bridge behind these three girls. And you can see she's also doing another kind of false frame effect, emphasizing that through the window effect.
Do you know what she's shooting with?
She shoots with a number of cameras. Her main camera is actually a red Hydrogen One smartphone,
Wow.
which I've got here. I think several of us probably know it. It is, it evolved into the LoomPad 2. It uses Leia's screen technology. It has a narrow base, but she has mastered that camera. Now, this is another one of hers, Palace Quarantine. This is the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco, also in her neighborhood. And she must have taken this during quarantine. This is not a Hydrogen One photo. This is a hyper stereo. The lenses are clearly pretty far away from each other. I know that she doesn't have a hyper stereo rig, so she must have taken two photos in a cha-cha method. She may have done a little bit of photo editing for the person, the figure, who really adds an important sense of scale. But knowing Melinda, she might have just walked up to that person and said, "Hey, stay perfectly still because I need to take two pictures of you." I don't know exactly how she did it, but the result is very nice.
That's great.
So we're going to move on to another maker. This is by Tor Klippert. Tor is from Berkeley. Tor, until recently, managed the Albany Twin Theater in Albany, which is a town next to Berkeley. And Berkeley, for those who don't know, is a university town in the East Bay, across the bay from San Francisco. Something tragic is happening in Berkeley. It's lost all of its movie theaters, and this happened very quickly, really, just in the past 18 months or so. And the town itself is really being transformed. Downtown is being torn down and built back up. And Tor is capturing this and recording this in stereo. And I started with this one. It's kind of a fun one. This is just looking through the box office window on the other side. I thought it was just a great subject for stereo, having that grill sort of floating in space there.
Yeah, it looks great, and those are really challenging. That's a challenging image to make that all fit and work and not give you trouble. That's an excellent.
It is.
Now she shot that with. This looks like, since it's looks like it was with a phone or something, right?
I'm guessing this was a cha-cha with a smartphone, in order to get that narrow base.
Yep.
So, as I said, downtown Berkeley is being transformed as buildings are torn down and new buildings are put up. Tor has a collection, really an album of this process happening. I didn't want to share any of the teardown photos because I want to keep the show positive and optimistic. So instead, I'm showing one of his after shots. The before would have been a more dilapidated building being torn down in the same spot. And Tor is using a smartphone here. This is a smartphone cha-cha, and he's developed this technique of using panorama photos in order to capture this, large space. It's almost as if he's shooting with a large format camera or something. It gives it a very nice kind of hyper stereo effect. You get the sense that the cameras are far away. And sort of a miniaturization effect, which I think is very pleasing. And this is just one of dozens of photos that Tor has captured of this process happening.
It's interesting because the streets are empty. Like, what does he shoot? Like 2 a.m. or something?
Tor is a night owl, working at a movie theater. He's not going to get off work until maybe 11 o'clock or so. And the city is his. He did have a certain amount of control also. He might have just waited for people to get out of the way before he made his shot. And this is the final one that I have of Tor's. And this is a downtown Berkeley shot. BART is the Bay Area's transit system. It's our subway, that goes to San Francisco, South Bay cities, and the East Bay as well. I particularly like this one because of the verticals. It's got a great sky, and Tor just has an amazing eye. I'm from Berkeley. I've passed this spot, I don't know how many hundreds of times, but I never noticed this fantastic 3D composition.
You're completely right. I was going to mention that too. It's like, this geometric thing.
Yeah.
Geometric living space is so great.
And it's such a well-balanced shot,
indeed.
And it tells us exactly what it is.
Indeed. It's all there. It's you're absolutely right. You could see it, the hustle and the bustle of the knot, and that's incredible.
All right, let's move on to Steve Siegel, and this is Steve. And I noticed that Jay, who is also a member of the Golden Gate Stereoscopic Society, and who must be thanked for arranging this whole thing, and this is really a big thrill for me. We don't just shoot straight photography. We're a group that has a lot of fun with creatives as well. At our meetings, we'll generally have 2 groups of photos. We'll have an open group or an open division, which is kind of anything goes. And then we'll have a special subject, which will usually be something creative, or maybe it'll be a specific theme or a specific subject. And I wanted to show this. This one is just so fun. Here we can see the maker, and we could talk all day about the techniques that Steve uses. This is just a lot of fun.
It is a lot. There's not one person watching right now, Matt, that's not smiling. There's not one. I can just tell you right now, 100%.
It's infectious.
It is. Yes. Indeed.
Steve was an animator at Pixar for many years. He's retired now, and also an independent filmmaker. He's got incredible stories and just incredible ideas also. And I think that's something that's a real strength of our little group. Everyone has a different background, and everyone has just a different kind of compositional theory. So every month we just see very, very unique work. Now, this obviously isn't a photo. This is another one of Steve Siegel's. This is a stereo conversion. This is a scene from Bald Mountain. From Fantasia. The title of his image is Bald Mountain. It's from the Night on Bald Mountain sequence. And I wanted to show this for 2 reasons. One, just to emphasize that we're not just straight stereo photographers. We have a lot of fun with these creatives as well. But I also want to talk about something which is new to us, and which we haven't really made a decision about yet, and that is conversions. This is a conversion that was done by hand, and we've all done conversions. We've had special conversion meetings where we've shared the conversions that we've made. This wasn't run through Leah Pix or anything, and that is really a game changer. And as I visit other clubs, other meetings, I'm seeing more and more converted images being exhibited. And I gotta say, playing with the conversions on the Loom pad, they're just so much fun. It just opens up a whole new realm in how to make and how to share stereo photography. But this is a
Yeah.
conversation that we really haven't had yet about how we're going to accept them, how we're going to notate them. But I did want to mention that we have been doing conversions for a long time.
Yeah, I think that the whole movement into spatial conversion is it's a bifurcation point. It's like eventually, no one's going to call it spatial or 3D or stereo or synthesized. The general public's going to go, show it to me the other way.
Yeah,
Show it to me the other way. Oh, I like the other way better.
just by flipping a switch.
Yes, yeah, great things to come, because that's really it's an interesting moment when, because you really got to really be into it to shoot 3D to do it right. It takes you really got to make a lot of mistakes, and people these days don't want to spend a lot of time on that. So with that whole new process of spatial images, and I hate to use the word conversion, because boy, is it really converting anything? But that's okay. I gave up that fight, by the way. I surrender. I'm not going to die on that hill.
This is what's exciting about it. It is a game changer. It's going to change things. It's going to make stereo more relevant in a lot of ways. But as you said also, Johnny, it doesn't take as much dedication. You don't have to go to a club meeting in order to learn how to do this. So we'll see where it goes. Very excited about it. This final photo by Steve here, I just wanted to include this because I want to emphasize that we're not just taking photos of great landmarks and great attractions and that kind of thing. This is a marvelous stereo photo that he shot while he was, collecting his garbage cans. And this is actually a conversion. It's a cha-cha with a converted element in it because, of course, the figure, the person, wasn't holding still when Steve made this shot, and he's using that false frame technique that we all love so much.
You fooled me. See that?
We love fooling each other.
Yeah, it's really funny. I look at images, and even though I can look at let's call it a conversion for the sake of argument, which for the sake of avoiding argument, and I can see a minute problem here or there, but it doesn't matter because the actual effect on me, emotional effect of looking at that image, makes the technical parameters just drift away. They don't matter. And I wouldn't have guessed this. And that's the thing that's freaking me out lately. Before I could tell when something was a 2D converted to 3D. I've kind of lost that in most of the things I do, and even the stuff I'm shooting, I go, my God, that I wouldn't have got that close up from that distance. Under like extreme circumstances, how would I have gotten that shot? And I look at it and go, God damn, it's an X. Anyway, you got my point.
Yeah.
Your point was much more clear than mine. I'll have to edit myself out.
Totally agree.
But that's it. Oh, great.
I've got a few here from Sharon Primbish. And what I can say about Sharon is that she is just a born natural. She shoots with a Fuji W3. I think, many of us are familiar with this camera. Many of us have this camera and shoot with this camera. Sharon is not a photographer who uses Photoshop. She's not a necessarily high-tech shooter, but she's got an incredible eye. She was just born for this. She has a lot of other hobbies as well, but I don't think photography is one of them. And when she joined our group, we just couldn't believe that she hadn't been shooting stereo her whole life. This is one that I love. I know not everyone is into rodeos. The title of this is Calf Roping at the Calaveras Fair. So this isn't strictly in the Bay Area. This is just outside of the Bay Area in Gold Rush country, as we call it, in more central California. Her timing is great. And of course, being able to capture these ropes, these lassos in midair like that. It's an effect that is so much better in 3D.
Including the hindquarter,
2D.
even the hindquarter on the horse, the musculature on the hindquarter. As a flat image, it's interesting, but here you really, it's incredible. Some people have that. I call it the gunslinger. They got that like something about them, and it's impossible to sell it, buy it, learn it. You just can't, and they got it. My friend Elliot Landy, same thing. They just get that moment. It's like a gunslinger, like they in their genes, they got it. And this is like you said, the rope, incredible.
I couldn't have put it better myself, and I don't got it. I labor over my shots.
Yeah, neither do I.
Sharon just makes it look easy.
Yeah, that's the thing that is most amazing, right? When it looks easy, you go, my God, this is so complicated. But yeah, it looks simple. Oh, it's incredible. Right. Great. I'm glad you included this. Thank you. Thank you.
And I've got one more to show of hers. This is a sandcastle competition. Castle Turret Construction is the title. And this is the kind of photo that I love to see in 3D. And the reason is, if you close one eye, if you look at this in 2D, this photo really kind of falls apart. There's so much going on. In 2D, it's very busy. People are kind of growing out of other people's backs, and it's really kind of a mess. But in 3D, all of a sudden it makes sense. And we have a subject in the front, and everyone is separated in the back. And all of a sudden, in my opinion, this becomes a photo that works. This is another Fuji W3 shot, and I'm guessing that Sharon didn't set up on a tripod or anything like that. She just saw the composition and took it. I don't know exactly which beach this is, but this is some California beach.
Yeah, I'd be careful. That lady right there holding the shovel, she steps back.
Yeah.
She's going to get a nasty surprise.
There's a lot of energy in this one.
Yeah, loads of energy. My God, it's so human energy. It's like there. But yes, it's incredible.
Now, this is one of three that I'm showing by Oleg Vorobyov. In my opinion, he's our best photographer, and he's my personal favorite stereo photographer of all stereo photographers. And he shoots around the Bay, but he does a lot of traveling too. So I would have loved to have just done a whole slideshow of Oleg's work. But it was actually kind of a challenge putting together a few that are strictly from the Bay Area. The title of this one is Garden Greenhouses at Gailey Harbor, and that's on the other side of the bay from us in Sausalito. Sausalito is where the Golden Gate Bridge leads to if you're driving over it from San Francisco. Oleg is very much into framing. And what he likes to do is compose frames within frames to create photos within his photos. And I think this is a great example of it. If you look through this greenhouse here, you can see through the windows in the back, you can see the water, you can see the hills, the Oakland Hills behind it. So wherever you look in one of Oleg's shots, there are usually multiple compositions to enjoy. He really encourages you to explore his 3D space. And you can spend a lot of time on just one of Oleg's photos.
Do you know what camera he uses?
I do, yes. Oleg uses DSLRs. I forget if they're Canons or Nikons. Doesn't really matter unless you're a Canon or a Nikon person. That are synchronized. And these are, fairly bulky cameras, so he can't get his lenses as close as are the average interocular distances between our eyes. So because of that, he sets up his compositions very carefully so that his images aren't too hyper stereo, so that they're comfortable to view, basically. He also uses wide lenses, which is more accommodating to this, slightly wider base. Now, Oleg is, well, we're all getting older. Oleg is getting a little tired of carrying around a 15-pound camera rig, so he is in the market for a new pair of cameras, but I'm sure he's going to be, making the same incredible shots that he is now.
It really is incredible. As you said, there are levels, like even that little opaque curtain hanging there. If you're going to close one eye, by the way, I suggest the left one, because it's easier to see through. At least it is for me. But when you look at it, you could see that whatever's being illuminated by the sun in the background. But when you open both eyes, you can sense the distance from the opaque device to whatever's being illuminated back there, whether it's a chair or just a bag, the white thing in there. Yeah, it's incredible. It really, there's so much to lap up in a picture like this. It's incredible, man. Yeah. Even the lake, like you said, in the back, you see the sailboat out there. Beautiful, man. Great work.
Yeah, incredible work. Here's another one of Oleg's. This is an interior. This is actually the inside of the Marin County Civic Center, and Marin is a city, California city. I don't think that, well, I would say that Marin is in the Bay Area. I don't know if it's official enough. The Marin County Civic Center is a famous building. It was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. And he has taken quite a few photos inside and outside of this building. Oleg is from Marin. And this is an interior shot. I love this shot, fantastic light, using the natural light. Oleg is capable, is a very capable photo retoucher. But you can see he hasn't pushed it too far in this one. Something else I really admire about Oleg's technique is that he will identify a shot, and then he'll set up there and he'll camp out there, well, 10, 15, 20 minutes or so, and wait for something to happen, wait for someone to come by, wait for that human interest element to make an appearance. And if it doesn't happen, he'll pack up and he'll go somewhere else. I don't have the patience for that. After 60 seconds, I'm done. And this is different from another photographer who we saw earlier, Melinda Green, who's just fearless, who will just walk up to someone and say, "Hey, I want to take your picture. Will you pose for me, please?" So two different photographers with different techniques, both producing excellent stereo photos.
What was the name of this one again? I was a clever name.
The title of this is Custodian Takes a Break.
That was it, right? Oh, this one was, yeah.
Isn't
I was
this
almost going to use
incredible?
this one on the email. Yeah, this is great.
This one is actually a couple years old, and this is shot from Mavericks at Half Moon Bay. And Half Moon Bay is in the, it's just outside of the Bay Area. For me, it's maybe an hour drive or less to the coast to get to this beach here. Mavericks is a world famous surf competition. It's not held every year. It's only held when the conditions are right. So there's a there's a window of, I don't know how long, a week or two, where they may have the competition, they may not. I know that Oleg was shooting with very long lenses, telephoto lenses. I can't tell you exactly how far apart his cameras were, but they were pretty far apart. But you can see, one thing I'll say also about Oleg is that he understands photography fundamentals. He understands ratios and lenses and all that. So he's able to calculate what the spacing, what the magnification should be before the fact, so that when he puts his photos together, they're always correct, in the sense that they're always comfortable to view. They're
Mhm.
not so wide they're going to pull your eyes out of your sockets. They're not so narrow that they look mostly flat. Um, as I said, Oleg hasn't shot Mavericks for a while. I don't even remember when the last Mavericks was, but he has a whole album of these, and they're just so amazing. Even though this one is a couple years older, I just had to include it.
Oh yeah, you had to. I'm so glad you did, because it really highlights how humans can just at play, at like the ultimate play, because the physics involved and what that guy is doing. But
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
the humans can just play with the physics of the world, granted to them. That's when we're most amazing, by the way. When when we got our mouths shut, pardon the expression,
yeah.
and we're dancing with nature. That's incredible, though. That really is beautiful. The way it's just tucked into the wave over there. And as a 2D, it works, but as a 3D, it really does give you a great feeling. That's amazing.
Yeah, Oleg is amazing.
Well,
All
we better
right,
keep
and
moving. Go ahead.
let's shift gears. We're gonna look at a couple of mine now. I
Oh,
do
great.
shoot also. And this is a hyper shot that I took not too long ago. This is in Oakland, California. And I wanted to include this for a couple reasons. First of all, I'm just very fond of it. I think it turned out very well. This is a new park, an open space on the waterfront in Oakland called Township Commons. And all of this grid work we see here, all of these girders, are a part of the restoration of some of the original waterfront buildings, or facades rather, that were kept intact to kind of, show the roots of this area, of course.
Do you know the people in the picture?
I don't know the people in the picture. They were out there picnicking. Um, if you look past them, you will see the Oakland waterfront. That is where the A's were going to have a new ballpark built. That didn't happen. They're probably going to be moving to Vegas, unfortunately. And to the left of that, you can see the San Francisco skyline. The tallest building there is the Salesforce Tower. So that would be the downtown financial district of San Francisco.
And what
And
was
then
the
if you
shot
move
with?
back over to the right, if
Okay.
you look through that entryway, that sort of garage door, you can't really tell. It's not as clear looking at the anaglyph, but there's a lot of black smoke pouring
Hmm.
out of the building behind it. Yeah, that's Oakland. I don't know what was happening, but I didn't go over there to find out.
Wise decision. Yeah, I could see
Yes.
it with the Anaglyph. I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, I could absolutely, even with the Anaglyph, I have a larger screen, maybe that's why. But yeah, that's a. Now the camera you used.
I used a pair of Canon point and shoots using the old stereo data maker firmware hack. I don't know if anyone in this meeting is familiar with stereo data maker. It was a great way to synchronize digital cameras. I don't know if it's supported anymore. I took many hundreds of pairs with that rig for years and years until my cameras finally kicked the bucket. Great little rig.
Do you remember how many megapixels there were? Because boy, that has a lot of detail in this image.
Oh, not a lot of megapixels. I'm just going to guess. I'm going to say something like 5 megapixels or something
you
like
get a
that.
lot. You see, that's it, Matt. You can get a lot out of 5 megapixels. You know, they go on to 50 and 100 and a billion. You take a lot of, chip space up. And honestly, you can get a lot out of 5 megapixels, man.
And we're amazed by our smartphone cameras. These really are incredible devices. But the kinds of point and shoot digital cameras that we were, shooting with 15 years ago were very capable. In some ways, even more capable. This is another one of mine. The title is Rincon Park, which is the name of the little grassy area that we see there. This is downtown San Francisco, and I took this actually on a Golden Gate Stereoscopic Society field trip. We all took a ride on a red and white ferry. It's basically a tourist ferry, and it will take you along the San Francisco city line, and then it'll go over to Alcatraz, and then it'll take you under the Golden Gate Bridge and back. And these are 2 photos that I took, not with a stereo camera, but with my regular DSLR, just as we were coasting by. So this is really a stereo cha-cha, the spacing between them being, I don't know, however fast we were going, 10 yards, 20 yards, I can only speculate. But I got very lucky with this, in that the spacing turned out to be quite perfect. I think it really gives you a good sense of separation with all these buildings without being too hyper.
And even the water worked out, because that's always an issue when you're doing things like that. And even it looks great, because I guess you cropped it right to that point. It looks great. It's because
I at least at one point in my life, I would have considered myself a Photoshop expert. I was a graphic designer professionally for many years. But at this point in my life, and at the point in my life when I took this shot, I'm really personally more interested in just trying to capture it in the camera and spending as little time with it in front of the computer as possible.
Excellent.
So, while I could have fixed the water, I think it's fine.
No, it looked great. The water actually looks good. Look, to me, it was perfect. Any chaos in that water, you would expect in the shot. So I couldn't find a problem at all.
Excellent. And then my third shot here, I got a lot of traction out of this one. One of our members had a friend who is a private pilot, has a small plane, and arranged for us to take flights flying over the city. This is San Francisco. The title is Salesforce Tower, which is the building in the middle there. And the goal was to, take these cha-chas, similar to how we did it on the ferry. In this case, though, we were airborne. Now, I'll say I had never flown in a small plane before, and I got so incredibly airsick. I have very little recollection of taking this shot or any of the other shots that I took. But it was totally worth it. It was an incredible opportunity. And I was just amazed when I finally recovered from that and loaded these into Stereo Photomaker and saw what I had captured.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I think this is the best one.
Yeah, it's great.
And then one more for me that's not a hyper and not an urban shot. This is a shot I took a couple months ago, hiking Mount Diablo, which is an East Bay mountain. I don't think it's the tallest peak in the Bay Area, but it does give you a very broad view of the surrounding countryside. And I wanted to share this one. I think this one is fine. It was a beautiful day. This one is actually kind of a collaboration. I took the shot, but Oleg Vorobyov did the editing and the cropping. And what I thought was really kind of a ho-hum shot originally, after I got it back from him, he found this composition which is just so well balanced
Mm.
and has so much depth in it. This is why it's important for me to, belong to these groups, because this photo, which I think is very good, was right in front of me. I took it, but I didn't see it. I missed this, which I think is a very pleasing composition.
And this again was shot with, well, what did you shoot this with that?
This was shot with my latest cameras, a pair of Sony RX02s, which are Silverman's cameras. Well, they're not his cameras. It's his rig, which he presented to this group. I asked him to present it to our group as well. He was originally a member of the Oakland Camera Club before he retired and moved out of California. But I was so impressed with his Burning Man photos that I copied him, and now I'm using the same cameras that he does.
Another nice one.
Yeah, this is the only photo I have by David Belsky. He's a newer member, and he's actually out of Southern California. And I wanted to show this to emphasize that, this is 2023. One good thing about meeting on Zoom is that we don't need to be in the same area to enjoy each other's stereo photos. It helps to be in the same time zone, especially because the Golden Gate Stereoscopic Society meets at night. But this is a wide-base cha-cha that David captured. He was driving by, stopped the car, got out, and took these two shots. He normally shoots black and white, and by which I mean he actually has a black and white setting on his camera. He doesn't do it in Photoshop, doesn't do it in post-production. And I think that's the case here. He didn't really do much to this. He didn't colorize it. This is what he got out of his cameras. Amazing photographer. I just love this one. Even though this isn't a Bay Area shot, I just had to throw this one.
No, it's great. It really is like imposing kind of it certainly gives you like a I'm not gonna say fear, but you see the energy there. You incredible.
And this is very much a David Belsky shot. All of this hardware, all that geometry. He has a series of lamps that he shot at IKEA, and the way that he shot him, the angles, you would never guess. I mean, they're like works of art. I'm going to move on now to Jack Musatko, a prolific stereo photographer, and I'm going to show you after this one a couple of creatives that he's done. You've probably seen his work before because he enters a lot of international exhibitions. This is a very pleasant one. He does a lot of this macro photography, and he's done something very simple here by just using retinal rivalry creatively by coloring some features in with a different color and a different eye. And as simple as this shot is, it has a kind of an energy, that retinal rivalry, that you just can't get in any other form as your mind tries to process one color in one eye and another color in another eye. And it's a very nice macro also. And Jack has a thing with bees. If you've seen his creative, you've seen a lot of bees. This is a macro shot that he made of the bee that he then in Photoshop combined in this straight photo that he took. I forget exactly where he took this, not too far from where we are. This one turned out particularly well. I love the way he retained the translucency of the wings of the bees. The two subjects really worked out, and he got the spacing of his macro, I think, more or less perfect, so that it really fits in. It's this very ominous monster. One thing I'll say about Jack, if we ever do a Jack Musacco show, if you're an arachnophobe, you might want to sit it out. He has a lot of spider macro shots, which are fascinating or disturbing, depending on how you feel about spiders.
Yeah, I just saw The Fly last night.
There you go.
It was on
Yeah.
over-the-air TV. I just clicked on. There was Vincent Price. I said, "Yeah," right at the end. Help me!
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love the way the way to go. The skateboard is just sitting there too. The whole thing is great. There's so much action. You could feel the movement in this entire thing. Even though the guy's going down, you do feel movement. Incredible.
Yeah. Jack managed to get this action shot, and I'm sure he shot that part with the W3. And then I think for the B, he uses a very cheap USB microscope. I think he bought it for like $30 or something online. And it's good enough for this kind of photography. This is the final photo that I'm going to be showing tonight, and none of us made this photo. This is by Andrew J. Russell. And I wanted to show this because this is an example of the kind of outreach that we do. This was an exhibition that we gave all over the Bay Area. And I'll tell you the story. Andrew J. Russell was a Western photographer, quite well known today. He was hired by the Union Pacific Railroad to photograph the Transcontinental Railroad, the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. He was also a Civil War photographer. He shot in stereo, and he also shot in 2D as well. You have all seen at least one of his photos. It's not a 3D photo, and I am going to put it in the chat right now, but I can describe it. It's called the champagne photo, or East and West shaking hands at the laying of the last rail. This is the photo of the gold spike being driven in Promontory Point, Utah, the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad. There are two steam engines facing each other, a crowd of people. That's what he's well known for. The Oakland Museum of California curates his original glass negatives. And in 2019, they gave an exhibition of his work. It was a fair exhibition. The way they exhibited his stereo photography was terrible, very poor. It was clear the curators had no idea what stereo photography was. And it was, to me, very distressing. And I looked at what they had done, and I said, you know what, we could do this so much better. So I went home, and I found that the Oakland Museum of California has made, anyone can download these high resolution scans of the original glass plate negatives. Now, they're not in great condition. Over time, the chemicals have reacted. Some of the photo elements are peeling away from the glass. So I downloaded, oh gosh, I don't know, 450 or so. Got the Golden Gate Stereoscopic Society together, and we retouched and repaired about 250 of them. This is one of them, and we have been showing these in person and online. And these photos are just amazing because they're just from such a different time, and they all tell a story. I love this one, the two telegraph, here they are, they're running telegraph wire, no safety, everyone just standing on this ledge, shimming up these poles. They're just a lot of fun. And I'll close with this one, and I will offer, if anyone is interested, we would love to give this show. These photos are going on 200 years old now, but it's just amazing what people were doing with stereo all that time ago. And this has been a very successful show that we've done on the road and online.
Oh, that was That was completely amazing. I got my camera back on. I do have one here. There we go.
Thank you
For
very
having
much.
that. That was phenomenal. Yeah. And okay, so now you're going to have people chasing you down for that, because that sounds like a great show. So what, how do you have that? You have that, have you created into like a stereo? How do you, you know what I'm going to ask? Why am I going through all this trouble? Go ahead.
Yeah. So we show it two ways. We have a 3D TV that we drag around for local in-person events, and we set it up there. For sharing it on Zoom, I've converted the slides to Anaglyph, and we've got a whole online Zoom-based presentation, and we go into the history of who this guy was and who was viewing these photos, who these were made for. And where it gets really interesting is when Andrew J. Russell was not working, when he was clearly not taking photos for the railroad, when he was taking photos of the people and the things around him. And they're just fascinating.
Well, again, oh my goodness gracious. Thank you, Matt. I went more than 20 minutes, but I had no choice.
Yeah.
They were great images. You had great stories. Oh my God. So I don't care. I don't care about anybody else. I was having a good time.
Well, thank you. I hope we didn't put you to sleep. This is a good problem to have for the Golden Gate Stereoscopic Society. We always have so many photos. We can barely get through them in one meeting, in one 2-hour meeting, which is why we now meet twice a month, the first and second Tuesday of each month, just because we're so prolific and we just love looking at this stuff and we love sharing it. So if you're not doing anything at 10 o'clock on Tuesday night,
7 o'clock, right?
7 o'clock our time, Pacific time.
7, but you're in California. So 11,
We're in
10,
California. Drop by. You'll love what
I'm
you
ahead,
see.
right? Gotcha. I'm behind. Oh, ahead, behind. I hardly know where I am at any point in time, but I got you. Thank you so much, man. Well, we went pretty far past. I'll take a vote on the crew. Do we want to go into a after party, or just we're at 4:30 now? I mean, I don't know how many more questions we'll have. What do you think there, crew? Jay, what are you thinking? I want to blame you. That's my point. Try to get out of this. We went long, man. I can't imagine how many questions. Hey, look. Here's what I would say. It's not like you can't get to Matt. Tuesday night, if you've got questions, he's got answers, and you realize how great a communicator he is. And those folks are so sharing and wonderful. So I would say save your questions for them. I'm sure you don't have any for me. And if you have any questions, wait till next week. You know what? I asked, and I didn't ask you. Jay, what do you think? They motivate you to get out. Yeah, see, that's the whole thing, to get out and shoot. And thank you, Jay, for suggesting this. And thank you, Matt, for being so wonderful, for being a stand-up guy, literally, at the Maker Faire. I knew we had a good. Once I saw that, I said, "This guy's got the chops to get shit done." Excuse me.
All right.
It was great, and thank you for spending all this time with us and putting that all together.
Thank you for hosting me. This is fantastic, and thank you, Jay, for making this happen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Cookman. And okay, so now. And for stereo in general, he really hit the points, having projects, going out and shooting and enjoying yourself with it, and explaining all those folks that are so brilliant that can help you improve your images. That's on every level. It was a great meeting, man.
And I've been coming to these meetings for quite a while now, months, I guess. And I'm really getting a lot out of the photos that you share. So thank you all. I'll be here.
Yes. And thank you. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, don't do that, man. Don't let them know what goes on behind the scenes. Ixnay Pedoto. Anyway, I want to go back to this. I want to thank this week's guest, Matt Bergman, and the folks at the Golden State Stereo Society. Jay Kuznets, Stereo Doro, our great Stereo Doro, who is, I can't imagine what you went through with me today, but thank you very much for your patience. Of course, Joe Pedotto, Paul Hutchence, and last but not least, you for stopping by to see what we've been missing. You've been missing what you've been missing in 3D. So rather than then move. Oh, it doesn't matter because now I'll save that for next week. There's not enough here left. I wanted to say something about open mics, but now we're not going to do the after party. So another great show comes to an end. Thank you, Stereo Doro. So you know where to get that stuff. We're going to do our best to do that. So if you wanted to see it at your own pace, you can look at the images. I'm sure we have your permission to do that, right, Matt? That was cool, right? Okay, and we'll credit them to you, so no problem. Anyway, as I say every week, I've been starting to say this more and more. Put down the TV remote, pick up your camera. And most importantly of all, really, share your joy, count your blessings. Thanks again for stopping by to see what you've been missing in 3D. And we're going to take remote one, and we'll take it from there. See you guys later.